So, can we tone down the volume of the effects a little bit? So this is Quill. I have those panels here that I can undock. So these are the tools, these are the colors, and I have the layers here. And let me choose a background color first. And I usually start with something. Let me do like red leaves or something on the ground. So I'm just gonna start painting in 3D space. Just a few lines. And you know, when I usually paint digitally, I usually paint everything. But in Quill, it turns out that it's actually pretty fast if you have brush strokes and then you start duplicating it, just like this, to basically construct your painting with paint strokes you already made. And repetitiveness you can get rid of by basically colorizing the strokes you already laid down, right? So basically I'm just duplicating the leaves the way I want. I'm gonna make like a cute little scene with a rabbit bouncing around and maybe a robot playing with him. We'll see. So let's see. This is a colorizer tool, so anytime I can basically colorize the floor, all the strokes that I laid down, and manipulate the color after the fact. Just like this, so remove a little bit of repetitiveness, and I call this like leaves, maybe ground leaves. I think I can actually tone down the sound myself here. Much better. All right, so let me create a rock. So I'm gonna have like maybe a character sitting on a rock. So let me just quickly paint a rock here. In this case, I'm not constructing it, I'm just painting it, just with brush strokes, right? And you see this little wireframe here, which helps me to see depth, because if I turn it off, right, and I draw like a sphere like this, it looks like a sphere like this, but from this side it doesn't, right? So this wireframe helps me to see depth. So that's pretty cool to have. So I have this rock here. I'm gonna duplicate it and maybe make it a little bit larger. Maybe there's a little smaller rock here, and you can see how fast I can just duplicate things and move things around, combine things. You know, it's really intuitive. So for me as an artist, this makes me feel like a magician. So this is what I like about Quill. So I'm gonna backlight the character. So I'm gonna make this rock a little bit darker and then add some light. So at this point, I'm thinking of the light coming from here, right? And the cool thing is when I paint in Photoshop with something in 2D, I think the same way. So if I put the light here or here, I think of it the same way. So when I transitioned into 3D and, to paint in Quill, it was actually fairly easy to translate the knowledge over into 3D space, because now you're actually treating the light source as a 3D light source. Now people ask me, why doesn't Quill have light? So Quill doesn't have light, it's just paint with color, right? And the reason is because the Quill team, we are committed to just keeping the control 100% to the artist. And we don't want to direct a look, right? So whatever style you have, that will come through the controller, straight from your mind, through the controller onto the VR canvas. And lighting, if you want lighting, you can still export this stuff out as a, let me save it a little quick, as maybe rabbit. There's no rabbit yet, but you'll see. Yeah, but if you want to light it, you can always export this geometry as FBX or OBJ files and then bring it into other 3D software to manipulate there or add lighting and stuff like that. So I'm going to have like a blue sky, and if I have blue sky, I will have purple in the shadows, or blue in the shadows. So I'm going to add some blue here in the shadows. So I'm basically setting up the environment here for my characters to interact in. So I have the ground leaves. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow here as well. It's gonna be a warm shadow. It's cooler than the ground, but it's gonna be still a little bit warm, just like this. And then I'm gonna create a character. So these are the rocks. So let me rename it rocks. And whenever you have questions, just shout. I can respond to them on the fly, or I will try at least. But yeah, let's see which color should the robot be. Maybe something like an old metal or something. Maybe do something blue, maybe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm using the line tool here and just draw out the legs. So I can just reuse the legs here as well. So maybe he has long legs, just like this. And then I can also just duplicate it and position the other leg here, right? And because it's 3D space, I can always see how things foreshorten, and I can it makes posing really easy for me. And now I'm gonna work on the head a little quick. So for the head, a trick that I like to use is I just do something like this, and you can duplicate, repeat, transform. So basically, you duplicate something, and then you can just hit redo, and what it does, it just keeps redoing the last action. So that way you can just easily create difficult shapes like spheres and stuff, and then you can just, let me turn this around. A quick way to get interesting shapes. So this is the head, and then let me do the body as well. So I'm just gonna duplicate this and then turn it down and nudge things into place. So this is the body. So you can see that I can reuse everything in a different way. So this is the body. Let me put the body here, and then maybe nudge it a little bit, rotate it a little bit, so he's bent over like this, right? And then I take the head, and maybe I flatten the bottom a little bit, and then put the head over here. So now he's chilling on that rock. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm just posing him, trying to find a relaxed pose, And VR makes me feel things more than any other medium. Feeling means I can translate so basically when I'm posing the gesture, I actually feel that I'm being him, and it's hard to explain. When you're in VR, you can actually relate to the shapes much better. So maybe he's relaxing here, so this is the arm. And then he's reaching out to that bouncing rabbit that you don't see yet. Let me see the time. I'm good. So you can see I haven't been even painting 10 minutes and how fast I got already, right? But it only gets faster from here. So what I'm gonna do now is I was actually on the rocks layer, so I'm gonna separate this character from the rocks. So I just flick up, and now I have it on an extra layer. So I'm gonna call this robot, and then I'm gonna add a lot of joints to him. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw a joint here with lighting in mind. So the lighting comes from the back, so it's warm sunlight. We have this here, and then we have the bounce light from the bottom, from the ground, just reflecting the little leaves over there. So this would be the bounce light here. Then we have the sky reflected in the metal here, the sky color. So I have some reflected color here, but then where the sun hits, it's very bright. And then everywhere else is a little bit gray. Here it's reflecting, and then at the bottom where it reflects the leaves, it might be a little bit stronger. So you will see in a bit that it will look like metal if I did everything right. So let me put some shadow in here. Here's maybe some screws, and now it looks like metal, right? Boom. So I have metal here, so I'm just gonna put into the joints, just populating the area here, just to make sense on how it works, how he works and operates. And then I have, see how it looks like metal already, which is pretty cool. So then I can use the same thing. I probably use something else for this, but let me put this into the ground here, just like that. So it looks like his feet are getting inside here. And then I'm gonna do some cables, right? So cables are something that I really hate doing in like traditional 3D applications because it's really hard to do. But in Quill, I just draw them, right? And in a matter of seconds, I have like 20 cables. This is the stuff that takes a long time with like traditional pipelines because you have to you're constrained to a 2D surface while doing this, and it's really hard to do something like this, right? But here you can just use the space. And this took me like barely like 5 seconds. And to do this stuff in like traditional methods is almost impossible. Well, it is impossible to do it that fast. Of course, it's possible. But now I'm gonna draw his neck, and then maybe I'm borrowing some colors here. You can just quickly pick colors from existing strokes, just like this, and just adding some detail here. Maybe some highlights as well, right there. And maybe some greens are reflected in the sides, right? If you zoom out, it really looks like it's metal. It's all an illusion while you put like adjacent colors, and then it creates the illusion of light. So basically, this is the head. This is pretty good. And now I want to create the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm going to just erase some holes in here. So let me go to the eraser and create a hole, and maybe here another hole. And then just fill it in with, so I'm gonna use the blue color and a brush, and then just fill it in, something like this. And then I'm going to go to the new layer and create the eyes. Maybe something like this. There we go. And as I said, if you have questions, just shoot. I can respond to them on the fly. But you have to speak up loud, otherwise I can't hear you. But okay, so I have the eyes now, and then the inside would be maybe something orange. Maybe he has orange eyes. So I draw a circle like this and just place it inside. Boom. And then maybe I make the circle a little bit bigger here, just like this, fixing up the edges, something like this. And then I create an eye, create the eye like this, and then put it in here. Oh, he's cute. And then let me give him a jaw or something, right? So before that, I'm gonna add the lighting to him. So I'm gonna pick this blue and make it a little bit darker because he's in shadow in the front, right? So this is all in shadow. And then the back would be in light, right? So we have light over here, and then it gets lighter over here. So with lighting, it's like where the light hits perpendicular to the surface. That's the brightest spot, so I'm gonna add like a little highlight here, and you see how well it works already. Just like this, and it starts working. I'm gonna take this whole thing though and brighten him up a little bit with color dodge, and then brighten this area up a little bit more, maybe bringing some teal into it. It's a little bit too milky, so I'm gonna manually do it. So let me just add some color. All right, now I have this, and he needs maybe a backpack or something. Not a backpack, maybe like something that generates power. So maybe it's like a battery pack or something. So something like this, you know, and some detail here and there. I'm not gonna be like crazy accurate on this stuff right now. Just want to give you an idea of what can be done in a short amount of time. So this could go into his body. Maybe there's like a connector here, right? Something like this. And that looks good. And adding a little bit more highlights. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use the line tool and add manual highlights here, and also paint a little bit of highlights in here. Just like this. So now we have him wearing this backpack, which is cool. And he needs, of course, some straps. And let's give him some straps like this, right? And now he has a proper backpack. Maybe some straps hanging down here and down here. And of course, we need like the connector over here, right? Then also, let's give him a jaw. So this is the robot. Let me go back to this. Let's give him a jaw. So you know what? I'm gonna just reuse this. See how easy I can do this? This is like so cool. Like it never gets old. You know how fast you can just grab things and use it. And let me just grab this. So this is his jaw. I'm just gonna use the line tool here. See if I can do something really quickly. Let me use the line tool, something like this, and boom, boom, and then this, and then duplicate it, something like this, and then I'm gonna colorize it to add some variation. It looks cute. He needs an antenna, of course, and maybe he's like kind of like a little bit old robot, right? So the antenna is not straight. It's like something like this, right? It's too windy. Maybe something like this. This looks good. You know, those imperfections are really, really hard to get with like traditional methods. You know, so time to save, and then I'm gonna work on the hands. So let me do the hands real quick. So thumb here, index finger. I think he has only 3 fingers, so or 4 fingers. I'm just gonna rotate it. I'm lazy right now, but basically doing like he's like trying to say hi to the imaginary rabbit right now. Let me see what the time is saying. I still have plenty of time to do the rabbit. No, I wanted to go to that. This is the right layer. Let me grab this little quick and put it here, here. And then I'm gonna put a few more connectors in here. Just joints, and then that's looking good. All right, now I have the robot. Now let me do the rabbit, right? So this is the robot. Let me put this guy in a folder and call it robot or bot. Bot is faster. And then I'm gonna create a new layer, call it rabbit maybe. Oh, let me fix this, rabbit. And then I'm gonna start painting the rabbit. So the rabbit is gonna be mostly in shadow because like he's jumping around right here. So let me do this. So I'm gonna create this half circle again, and I'm gonna do the same technique to loft a surface around, just like this, and this is gonna become the body of the rabbit. And once I have the rabbit like this, I'm gonna just draw like an ear like this, and then I just duplicate it, right? And then I have the rabbit. And then the rabbit needs some eyes, but I do the lighting first, so let me finish him up a little quick. So this is like the bottom of the rabbit, and then he might have a little tail. And he's of course a little bit big, so we're gonna scale him down. That's much cuter, right? Something like this. And he's looking up. So let me do the lighting on him a little bit. So on this side, because he is in shadow, this is gonna be a little bit bluer, but he will also have some bounce light from the bottom, which is red, right? And then he will also have some bright light hitting his face. So this is gonna be the rabbit, and then I'm gonna draw the face. So let me draw the face here, beep, beep, and like a little nose. And the eyes are too big, so I'm gonna scale them down. And then maybe they go a little bit further out, just like this. Let's see what it looks like. A little bit closer looks cuter. So let's do this. Attention to detail, right? All right. So this is the rabbit's ear. Let me do the interior of the ear. Maybe it's a little bit more pink or red. So I'm gonna quickly do that in here. It's funny how I look around the menus. Yeah. I always catch myself doing weird things in VR. Something like this. That looks good enough. That is a cool rabbit. So now I have the rabbit, and now I want the rabbit to jump around, right? So to make him jump around, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put here in the transform tool, you can do animate, duplicate, transform selection. What that means is I can basically select the rabbit, and whenever I create a duplicate, it also creates, you can see it here, a new frame for me. So what I can do is I can animate him on the fly, right? So basically I want him to jump around like this, right? So I basically grab the rabbit, push him down, right? And then he's like about to jump, then he gets stretched out, and then he jumps up, boom, 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 jumps up, comes to a halt up there, and gets slower, spacing gets slower, he comes back down, boom, 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 and then if I hit play, he's already jumping, right? Which is really cool. Okay. Now I have him jumping, but I have basically I have to like nudge him into space. So let me quickly nudge him. So I want to, oops, let me turn this off. So I can now, with a flick of the joystick, I can just go through frames. The red frames indicate the previous frame. The blue frame indicate the next frame. So what I'm gonna do is like here, he goes into the ground. While he's into the ground, I'm just gonna take the rabbit and smash him to the ground, right? Boom. So boom, boom, boom. And then once he goes up, then he gets stretched. So the bottom gets stretched like this, and then he stretches up, and he still gets stretched. So I'm just gonna use the nudge tool here, and then stretched. He's a little bit less stretched, and then he bounces up. So let me bounces up, and here he might go a little bit smaller, and then he stretches again. So stretch, 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 and full stretch. Boom, and then if I hit play, it's much more dynamic, right? So now I have the little rabbit bouncing around. And now I want the ground to react to him. Because I have leaves here, and let me extend the ground leaves a little bit. And what's really trippy to me is here, I can just always grab things and extend it while I see the character being animated in the scene, right? So I can keep working on it, and I'm like, oh, there's a rabbit bouncing around. Never mind, you know? So that's like really cool. Still doing good in time. So what I can do now, what's really mind-boggling to me, is that you can basically lower the frame rate. So I go to the rabbit layer, right? And because 24 frames per second is a little bit fast for me to react to, I send it to like maybe 8 frames per second and hit play, right? Now you can see that he's like much slower. What I'm gonna do now is like, I'm gonna use an animation brush, which has a lifespan here. And then I can react in real time to the rabbit. So when he lands, I would be like, boom, boom, boom. And then he might lift some little leaves too. And I'm moving in slow motion, right? So I'm feeling out the animation, boom. And I'm waiting for him to land, and then I'm doing like all those little things here. And this is like the funnest thing when you animate, right? This is something as an animator you dream of, to be able to like react to rhythm, right? And that's why I feel like this is like so game-changing for me. And now I animated it, I go back to 24 frames per second, right? And look at that, right? Now he's like bouncing around, right? And then let me add some blink animation to the robot. So I put here maybe eyelids, lids, and then I'm gonna let him blink. So in one frame, he will be like this. In the next frame, he will be like this. In the next frame, he will be like closed. And in the next frame, so let's see. Hold on. Yeah, so this is, let me see how many frames I have. I'm a little bit lost here. Okay, so after 2, I would add a frame. Yeah, now we're right. So now he's blinking, right? And then after that, I add another frame and I open his eyes again. So I'm gonna do this here too, on his other eye. It can't be just one eye, right? And then, so what I can do is like I hold this open frame for a while. Let's say we want it for like 2 seconds, which is about like 48 frames. So for 48 frames, I'm gonna hold it. And then he's gonna blink, and then he's gonna open the eye again for maybe another, let's say 86 frames. So now, if you look, he should be blinking. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slow down the animation a little bit so he doesn't blink as fast. So if you look at him now, he's like blinking now, right? So this is really cool. And now let's add some more life to the scene. So maybe we will add, let's see the time, it's still okay. Let me add some trees to it, right? Yeah. What about it? 5 more minutes, okay. Okay, that's fine. Then I go over to the bugs. So let me add some bugs here. So one thing I love about VR, what I mentioned before, is that you can actually feel the rhythm of the animation. So one thing I like to quote Bruce Lee when he says, like, if you put water into a cup, it becomes a cup. You know, if you put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. And if you want to animate a butterfly, you just become the butterfly, right? That was a failure. I have to like fill it up with frames, hit play. So if you want to become a butterfly, animate a butterfly, you become the butterfly, and then you just do this, and then there's a butterfly, right? And let me add another one here. And another one here, right? So now I have like this finished scene. Let me make sure, I'm gonna share it to spaces now, but let me grab this arrow here, remove this arrow, and then make sure I put everything in a folder so I can place it to the spaces table. And then let me snap a thumbnail here. That's what you're gonna see in spaces. Maybe something like this. Let's see. Maybe the other direction is better. So let me shoot, and that's a cute shot. And okay, so that's cool. Let me go get a little bit closer. Something like this. Save it, and then I basically go to share to spaces. Before that, I wanted to make sure that it's aligned to the table. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on the table here, and then make sure that those are the players in Facebook Spaces, so you make sure that it looks good from all angles. So maybe I'm gonna put him down a little, just like this, position him right, so everybody sees like a nice angle of this. This looks good. And then I save again. Oops. Let me save again. And now hit share. Now it's gonna take like a few seconds, and now it's shared to Facebook. And you can enjoy it in spaces upstairs. If you request this to watch this piece, you can do this so. And I hope this gave you an idea how fast you can create in VR and why I think this technology is so powerful for creators. Thank you for listening.